Okay, as you can see, we have finally finished the foundation. And none too soon. It's about the last week of November that we're going to have here before the ground starts to freeze. So, this being the first time I've ever done a foundation on any sort of structure at all, I learned a few things along the way. For leveling, at first I just started out using the little level and the big 4-foot level and going block to block, and I found out that that didn't work so well over the distance. So what I did after that was I would take a string and put it across the top and one on the side, and use a string level, which this little thing here just hooks onto the string, and you can keep a level line across a large distance. But I found out when coming back all the way around to the end from the point we started that wasn't quite good enough, and just over the course of going all the way around the distance, it got to be a little bit lower at the starting corner when we got back to it again. So finally, on this last wall here, this last foundation wall, I figured, why not use the actual board that's going to form the sill of the wall to both keep the blocks in line and level it to the board. And since, you know, most lumber, especially when you get to be 12-foot lengths and longer, are not exactly level themselves, it's probably the best idea just to, you know, use the boards to do the leveling and to keep a straight line as you're going along with the walls. So, some lessons learned. I'll do things differently next time. But I'm really excited to get going on the next phases here. What I got to do next is on this portion, I got to dig out the trenches where I'm going to be putting in the barrels to keep the fish in, and also the sump pond. The lowest point in the whole system is going to be there, and that's where it's going to be pumped up back into the drainage beds. After that point, I'm going to take a bunch of leaves and a little bit of food waste and put it in every single one of the little holes in between the cinder blocks there. And what that's going to do is, as I understand it, if you have a high carbon to nitrogen ratio, and I could be wrong on this, but if you have a high carbon to nitrogen ratio, you're going to get a nice hot compost going. And so basically what that's going to do is two things. It's going to help keep the foundation from, or the ground beneath the foundation from freezing, because it's going to be constantly putting out heat day and night. And the other thing it's going to do is provide a little bit of extra heat for the greenhouse itself. So I'm just experimenting with it. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I figure since it's concrete, having composting, that is, vegetable matter up against it's not going to be that big a deal. The worst that can happen is it doesn't really have much of an effect. So I'll keep you updated. Hopefully it won't be as long till the next video, and I'll talk to you again then. We are at the worm bin. I want to show you my composting theory in action. So it's mid-November now. It's the 17th. So we've had more than a week stretch of freezing weather, and I was afraid that my worm composting bin was going to freeze solid and kill all my worms, which would be no good. So I moved a bunch inside, but I couldn't get every single one of them. So what I did was I just dug a hole straight down the middle of the compost bin and layered back and forth between leaves and vegetable waste, and hoped that it would get enough composting action going that it would heat up. It would keep the bin heated enough for the worms to survive, and in fact it has. You can see those are red wiggler worms. They're not supposed to survive freezing temperatures. I mean, they're doing just fine right here in the core. So it seems to have worked. So that makes me hopeful for it working in the greenhouse as well, and providing just a little bit of extra heat along that foundation line. Alright, more updates soon. So what I've done here is I've jammed leaves into each of the voids of the concrete block, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of food waste to each one, and that's going to start some good compost action. Hopefully boost the temperature hold the blocks just enough so that the surrounding ground doesn't freeze, and it'll help to heat the greenhouse just a little bit too.